All right. Welcome, everybody. Looks like we're all here. Let's go ahead and get started. This is the March 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Valley of the Sun Waldorf Education Association Board of Directors, better known as the Board of Desert Marigold School. You are joining us today by Zoom, and you'd like to log your attendance. Please click the link in the agenda, and you can register your attendance there. Let's start by, I'll say the opening verse this evening, and then we'll get started. The true aim of education is to awaken real powers of perception and judgment in relation to life and living, for only such an awakening can lead to true freedom. That's from Rudolf Steiner. I'm Gregory Schneider. I'm the board president. And I'm joined today by 4 other board members and Mr. Maurizio. Let's go around and introduce ourselves, starting with April.
April Sauer, board member, or board secretary, sorry. We're off to a great start.
Dan, go ahead.
Dan Franks, board treasurer.
Mr. Tanner.
John Tanner, board member.
Excellent. And Danielle.
Danielle Martinez, board member. Good evening.
Welcome all. So we have a full agenda. Tonight we're going to talk about some budget and finance issues. We'll get an update from Mr. Maurizio as soon as he reconnects. We'll keep going because there are some things we can touch base on, I think, while he's working that out. And then we will, of course, be talking about COVID-19. Big news today from the governor, issued an executive order that changes the whole calculus. So we'll talk about that and what it means for the school. And then we'll talk about some strategic planning issues, some initiatives, some long-term ideas, try and get a longer-term vision going for where we're headed. Then we have some minor board issues to deal with. So let's go ahead and get started on budget and finance. So Danielle, would you like to tell us where things stand on the fundraising front?
Absolutely. So I did talk with Melissa, the first person we contacted about her fee structure. Said she would be willing to discount her fees even more if that was helpful. And yes, she also would be willing to do a percentage of profits. I know Frank had asked if she would do that. She agreed. And she would like an initial down if we decided to use her services. I was able to connect with Tyson Schlink. I don't know if you've had any interactions with him, but I was able to finally connect. So he's going to review some of the same questions I asked Melissa and get back to me on that. I also spoke to a new group. I attended a virtual fundraiser Saturday with an organization near our home. And in 2 hours, they were able to raise $300,000, and they are located in Laveen. So I contacted the company that sponsored that and some really great things. They ask for a annual fee, and then all of their services are open to us. And if we decided to go that route, all of our organizations could use them if Animal Care wanted to, if Parent Council, anything else we organized in the school. And it was 1995, and they would do all the customer service, even live during our event. So that was exciting. Talked with some other individuals about just general fundraising ideas. The One Source, that's the group that did the event on Saturday, they mentioned that they've put on events within 2 weeks. So if we wanted to look at something, I was kind of geared towards May if we are able to get something up and running. And that would be plenty of time. The other options for doing some fundraising ideas was just with people from the community and getting ideas to brainstorm, because we've all had them, but not just getting collaborative. So deciding if yes, we want to do something and which route we want to take.
Excellent. It's good to have options. Do you think by our next board meeting, we could have potentially written proposals or the terms for each of those 3 folks?
Yes.
So we
So
can compare them and make a decision and start getting this fundraising engine going.
Melissa's drafting up her proposal. Tyson just got started, so I don't know when he'll be able to get that to me. And the One Source emailed that over today.
Perfect. So yeah, maybe let Tyson know we're looking to make a decision March 17th.
Okay.
Often deadlines help people. Excellent. There was also a community member raised an interesting point on donations to classrooms that I thought would be worth talking about. Just in this context, some parents want some assurance that the money they're giving to the school is going to a particular classroom, and they don't really see how they can see that what their money is affecting a particular classroom, or there's not an obvious way to tie the money to the classroom. We have our materials donation, but even that is it goes into a general fund of materials for everyone at the school. It's not like materials specifically for the 3rd or 4th grade, for example, or a particular, high school classroom or something like that. So I'm not saying we need to have an answer to this tonight, but I think it's worth thinking about as we think about longer term fundraising. Is there a way that we can specifically identify needs for specific classrooms, and so parents or community members or anyone really can say, yes, I can fill that need for that classroom. And why don't we jump ahead to another part of our agenda? Because Dan, this was a point that you brought up, was maybe we can have some type of community needs spreadsheet or list that's posted publicly in a way where it would be updated frequently, and so people could actually sign up and say, yep, I'll take care of that.
Yeah, so like having like a place where faculty could enter needs and the community could see it, so that they could say, hey, I can help out with that, and chime in and be able to at least have some visibility around what the needs are in the community or from the faculty.
Is that, what would it take to implement something like that on our website, for example?
On your website, I'd have to talk to the person who runs the website to see what platform they're on, to know if we can plug in, how easy it would be to plug in like a Google Sheet or a Google Doc or something like that. But it shouldn't be that much effort. I would think you would have like a read-only Google Sheet that the faculty would have access to, and then you could have a form that people could submit to the website that would say, hey, I saw this on the Google Sheet or on the list of needs, and I want to help. And it would email us, and then we could coordinate and connect the dots, or the admin. It could be either way. And then then they would reach out to the parent or the community that member that wants to help and connect them with the faculty member that requested the help. Doesn't have to be terribly formal.
Could we utilize Parent Square also for that, like a wish list, or by classroom? Or
potentially, I don't know what functionality Parent Square has around resource management. We can look into it. That'd probably be easier than modifying the website and give faculty and teachers better access to they're more of an all-in-one place to enter information into.
I'm going to jump in here because I worked with Laura Heaney and LDC over the summer to get that the new modeled website up. Laura Heaney is your go-to person. I'm sure based on her skill set that she could do all of the things you're talking about. So if you need her email, I can connect you, and I'm sure she can answer all of your questions.
Okay. Cool.
And she wants to volunteer to help us. So
sounds good.
She's a master at it.
Who's our Parent Square expert? You know?
That was Laura Heaney at one point too.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Cool.
I'm sure if we needed her help, she could assist on that as well.
Cool. I know Parent Square has a lot of functionality that can be turned on and turned off based on school needs and various ways. So I don't know what we have capable. So
On the website, it might be a better option to put it there because with Parent Square, it's just internal. Whereas on the website, you could tell your grandma who lives in Mississippi or wherever, hey, my classroom needs X. Can you donate to it? And that'd be awesome. I don't want to turn away any type of donations or help.
that's true. Cool. Thanks.
All right. Well, Dan, if you can follow up with Laura, and if you don't have her contact information, we'll get
Do
that
not.
to you.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Thank you. So let's turn then to the enrollment update. Frank, I take from your report that we have some good news on that front.
Well, my report is actually old. I wrote that this morning. And by the end of the day, if you look at my report, it says 80% of the 308 registration paperwork were turned in. Well, by the end of the day, that number shot up to 93%. So we have 288 of the 308 families registered today, and it's March 2nd. I got to give Crystal a lot of kudos on this. She's been working those phones and texts and emails and just doing her very best to get paperwork turned in. Again, that number is 288 today. That's great news.
That's fantastic. All right. So it's been a couple weeks, maybe more than a month now, where we've checked in on the budget process for the next school year. Where do things stand on that?
Well, Priscilla and I talk every week, and we meet for a good part of a whole Thursday on the every other Thursday that she comes, and she's scheduled to come tomorrow. And she keeps telling me, Frank, we can't start the next budget until I close out this budget. I guess I've been a little bit too eager to move forward, and she just wants to dot I's and cross T's. Thank goodness she's a numbers person, because I'm not. And so she's walking me through that to make sure that we have a bottom line heading for June 30th that shows we're in the black. And before that, she's not saying we have to wait till June 30th. Please don't misunderstand. She's just saying she has to have a better prediction than what she has right now. I guess there's still a couple of funds coming in, like some reimbursement on IDEA funding that just came in this week. Obviously, that second ESSER grant that she's looking at right now to see how much we can use immediately. And then, of course, to figure out, because we had several aides not working in our budget during COVID, but then we replaced them with people to run the on-site program. And so we're trying to make sure we didn't go over budget in that by having, we're trying to make it an even 3 sat at home over COVID and 3 came in. And she's just trying to solidify all that. Obviously, I meet with her tomorrow, and I'm hoping to have a huge update tomorrow, and we will work on that.
Excellent. Good. Sounds like you're making progress.
Something was left out of my report. I thought I resaved it later in the day, but it didn't show on the one that went to you. And I know Dan knows about it. Deb Paulo has pulled off the miracle of miracles. And about 2 months ago, I saw an article in the paper, just online in the AZ Central, saying Phoenix City Council was using some grant money to buy computers for school, laptops for schools that needed it. And so I kind of sicked her on that article, and she did some hunting and talked to Phoenix City Council. They gave her another number, and lo and behold, yesterday it came through. We just got granted 226 laptops with chargers and a year's worth of tech support. I know Dan knows about this because Deb has included him to make sure that we're not taking someone's junk, that this really is, these are good computers with enough gigabytes, and I'm speaking Chinese now because that's not what I do, but that it has enough power to help our kids on our campus and even our teachers, as we don't issue a computer to every teacher. And I actually think we should, between you and me. But Deb Paolo cried when she got that phone call. She was so excited. And I want to again give her kudos. And I told the staff today about it. I wanted to make sure I gave you a surprise announcement. The only thing we'll have to invest in are some carts that lock these up so that they're safe and can't be stolen. And we'll work on that as soon as they come. They're supposed to come the week after spring break so that we will have time to set them up for our first tests, which I think we test 2 grades on science on March 29th. So that's a good 13 days. Hopefully that'll be enough for it to at least get 60 computers set up for those 2 grades.
That's truly outstanding. Well done, Deb.
Yeah, very, very happy. And Dan, you've seen all the logistics. This looks like they're good computers, correct?
Yeah, I just asked for the RAM. The memory looks good. I just wanted to make sure that get the model number to see what version of the operating system was and various things to make sure it matches the testing requirement specifications. I think it does. They do, but I just want to absolutely verify. And then we need to figure out an inexpensive solution to clone 60 computers at one time.
Anyway, we're pretty excited about this. It was kind of a last minute surprise to you guys. Sorry about that, but we literally found out at 9 o'clock last night. And so we had a conversation this morning. And I know Dan found out a little bit about it yesterday, I believe. Correct, Dan?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So again, we're thrilled. This is wonderful news. This is a nice investment that we didn't have to put money out for. And that's just great news.
Yeah, that's the kind of last minute surprise we like.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Give us more of those. Send more of those our way.
Anything else on the financial condition of the school that we need to talk about? Anyone?
I had a question about the there's going to be another round of funds, ESSER 3, I believe, that's still in committee. So Aspire will follow up on that as well, correct?
I will mention it to her tomorrow. I think
I heard that
we
in
just
the
got
webinar.
ESSER 2, and I
Right.
meet with her tomorrow, so I'll remind her that now there's a possibility for ESSER 3 because we want them all, of course.
Yeah, well, I know she did a great job helping us track everything for the first one. So I'm looking forward to having her do it for the round 2 and round 3, however many we can get. It's all helpful.
MidFirst did email saying that they're getting ready to start accepting the applications for PPP forgiveness. PPP. There's more of a status update that it's coming sooner now. That's no specific date.
Okay.
For early March, Dan, early March.
Early March. What day is it?
Well, I know they've been kicking that can down the road for months and months now. So we'll get there when we get there. Anything else on the budget, cash flow, approvals? I know there are a couple, we're waiting for some proposals in writing before we can actually consider them and approve them, but we'll do that when we get them. Anything else? No? All right. Well, Frank, we'll turn it over to you again. Any other updates about the school operationally that you got to know?
Well, based on my report, I did an update on remote learning and the possible return to hybrid. Of course, everyone has seen the governor's announcement today. I can say, because we've been prepping for 2 weeks, that we're ready for that. I feel good about it. The day porter's been on all week. The school is getting sanitized very well. We poured some extra rock in the parking lot because when we had that storm, there were some grooves where you turn in on that first turn. And so Steve and Hector put some more rock down to prepare for all the cars coming in another week. We re-put up our signs for EC in first grade and second grade all the way to eighth grade for drop-off. We kind of cleaned up that front of the school a lot because we know we're going to have a lot more people driving through. We checked some air conditioners. We did a fire alarm yesterday to make sure all the alarms are working. We're gearing up and we're ready. We're going to do a special cleaning of the eurythmy room this Friday and next Friday because that room has been used a lot for the on-site, and we just want to make sure it's spotless for Ms. Schmidt and those students. We feel good about that. I did the enrollment update. We're still applying for some grants to make our counselor a full-time counselor. I can't tell you how her work has tripled during this situation of the amount of kids that really do have emotional setbacks from not being at school. I don't know any way to say it. There's 5 or 6 names that my counselor can give to it that are more official, but her amount of calls again have tripled, and she's doing everything she can to help students. But clearly, a half-time counselor moving forward is probably not a good idea. And I've been talking with the State Department, the Health and Safety Department. I have some contacts there, and we might qualify for some grants to make her a full-time counselor, and I'm trying to make that happen.
Is that something, I wonder if we can fit that into the ESSER 2 fund?
I'm going to ask about that because that has expanded greatly in ESSER 2. They're even saying we can do some capital things with it. I don't know exactly what that means. I'll ask tomorrow with Priscilla. We'll talk about it. I don't know if that means you can put a
COVID tag.
Yeah, I think it has to be somewhat related. I don't think we can build our multi-purpose room with it, but we certainly can find some smaller projects that might work. Trying to think what else here. The good news on the computers, the testing schedule we have made for AZ Merit, it lasts like a month because we thought we were only going to have 30 to 35 computers. So we were only testing 2 classrooms a day. We're going to work on a new plan with those computers so that we can finish that testing in a week or 2 weeks, because it really puts the teachers in a bind to have to test for a month straight. So we're going to revise that schedule. Of course, we'll still have plan A in case those computers don't show up before then, but we will have a plan B so that when they do show up, we can shorten that window for us for testing. I think that, an update with Teresa. I had a conversation with Teresa yesterday. She has been talking with Peter and Joan, and they are getting closer to sending us an agenda with a date and a time for the contemplation exercise with costs. They've been talking quite frequently because I did speak with Peter and Joan yesterday as well, and they're close to sending us something. So hang on, she's almost there.
Very good.
One last announcement. When we come back from spring break, and hopefully we'll be in, that Friday, I've met with the parents and we're having a barbecue for first grade through 12th grade. The early childhood are not going to participate at this time. And the parents are putting it on. It will be an assortment of a taco bar, grilled chicken, barbecued chicken sandwiches, salads, watermelon and fruit. And we'll do the standard thing. The ladies walked me through how they've done it in the past. A couple of guys grilling, a lot of parents working a station to hand out food. We'll do 2 grades at a time. That will be Friday. We come back from spring break. I want to say it's the 19th. Board members, please, if you have a chance to swing by between 10:30 and 1. I'm hoping that's the time it'll happen. It'll be great for you guys to see everybody in unison again. I know everyone's been chomping at the bit to get together and do some of the festivities that Waldorf is famous for. So thank you to Michelle and Laura. Big thumbs up to them. They're a huge help in this.
Well, that sounds awesome. I'll try and make it.
I'll send you guys a written reminder that week. And I think that's all I have right now. Yeah, that's all I have right now.
Questions on any of those announcements? Oh, well. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Excuse me. With the ESSER funds tracking, are we also allocating, or do we know when we anticipate running out of those funds, or is that something you'll go over with Priscilla tomorrow?
Well, I believe we've already spent all the ESSER 1. The ESSER 2 we just received.
That one.
And I don't even know if it's in our bank account yet. They announced we're going to get 150, Greg. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you guys made a decision at the last board meeting that the $2,400 a month for the day porter, which was just going to be March, April, May, go ahead and agree for them to work, because it's only $2,400 a month for the rest of the year would come out of that. To my knowledge, that's all we've agreed to spend out of ESSER 2 so far.
Well, I know ESSER 2's spend date is September 30th of 2023. It's a year longer. I did have a question on how we're categorized. So I saw that the title schools, the non-title schools, and then CETDs, it was either 150,000 or 3 times ESSER 1. So I would like to know how we're titled and to make sure we got the max we could.
I can't answer that right now. I will sit with Priscilla tomorrow because I didn't see that in the statement. I saw a number that was 175 and I brought it up to her and she said, no, that's not for a charter school. That's for a different school. We get 150 according to her. But I will check on that for you, Danielle.
Thank you. And the opportunity, if we are able to allocate, if we are considering the air purifiers as well.
I would tell you that I kind of feel that's because it's a big dollar item. That's for you to tell me you want to do it or you don't. I know that is available. Several parents have sent me that in emails. And I think I forwarded those on to you. I have not heard back from you guys to say, go ahead and investigate this or not. I don't know if you guys wanted to talk about it more and that's what you were doing. Obviously, we have a lot of windows and doors that we're hoping to keep open while we can in the spring. Come May, that will be difficult to do because it'll be so hot out. You really don't want that air coming in. But I've heard these purifiers that were sent to us work. That's not the question. The question is, do we want to put that out from the capital of it?
And has there been any discussion about any summer programs?
Wait, before we jump to a new topic, why don't we stick with the air purifiers? I think it would be worth getting a number, on what would it cost to equip our classrooms with those kinds of purifiers. I mean, and then we can decide, 2 weeks or a month from now, is that worth getting done? And we should at that time know more from Priscilla about the timing of the ESSER 2 funds and, the final dollar amount we're going to get.
You want me to investigate that and get you some information on it?
That'd be great.
Okay, I'll do that.
Well, you're getting the numbers because you also get the cubic feet per minute the purifier runs basically, and then the level of purification it does, like the micron purification level, just to kind of, so we can
Hey,
do some
Dan,
math.
can email me that question so I don't screw that up.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
I think we have a parent contact that knows a lot about that as well, Miss Ippolito. So I will check in with her.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you, Danielle. Go ahead.
No, thank you. I just didn't want to run the meeting too long, so I thought I'd just hammer them all out right now. Has there been any discussion about any summer programs?
Do you mean like summer school?
Well, we've run. We never called it summer school because it wasn't. Well, my daughter was so young when she participated, so it was more of an early childhood. The rhythm, continuing the rhythm from the school year throughout the summer, and of course, parent care for us who are working. But I didn't know if there had been any discussion. We used to have that, and of course, if that was profitable at all as well.
I believe the early childhood asked about it, but it never went past that stage because we were getting ready to ramp up. We had our inspection from the state for the private program last week. We've had several aides out. They've been going with no aides because they've been sick on and off. And then obviously we're trying to ramp up the private program. And the good news is pre-registration numbers, we have 16 for next year, which means it would pay for itself. As you know, this year we were down to 6 or 8 and it wasn't paying for itself. But next year, so far, the people requesting the paperwork is up to 16, which is really good news. But I will talk to them this week and see if that is something they wanted to do. We did add back in the aftercare for early childhood. So from 12 to 2, parents can pay to have their kids stay a little longer, do their nap time, have their snack. And I think we even have it staffed with an aide that has agreed to do that. So there was a lot of that type of planning going on as we ramped up to come back in another week.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Unless there's anything else, I think we can move on to COVID-19. So, as Frank mentioned, the governor today issued a brand new executive order, basically changing the whole landscape of schools and how we respond to COVID-19. So I'm going to share my screen with the order, and we're just going to kind of walk through it point by point and what it means for Desert Marigold. So here it is. This is the top. Then there's all these whereas clauses called recitals, which just give the background. And then here's the part where he's actually saying, here are the new rules for schools. So number 1 says DHS is going to start using the same metrics utilized by the CDC. And they're going to rank the metrics based on low, moderate, substantial, or high transmission. And that's what they're going to show on the dashboard. And then number 2, it says all charter schools shall return to in-person teacher-led instruction no later than the Monday following spring break or March 15th. So, and turns out March 15th is the Monday following a scheduled spring break for us. So we are now required to offer in-person and teacher-led instruction on Monday, March 15th. Then there are some subparts here. So this is where it gets a little bit technical. And it says, number 1, it's about how much virtual you can be, depending on the level of community transmission that's going on based on these new CDC metrics. So for low or moderate transmission, you're going to be open for in-person instruction, and you offer virtual instruction options. We're still doing physical distancing. We're still doing all the mitigation measures that we've been doing. When we're in substantial transmission, which is where Maricopa County is right now, according to the metrics that were released today, again, we'll be open for in-person instruction and virtual options for families that request it. Again, we're still doing the same distancing, the same mitigation strategies. There's an option for middle and high schools to reduce in-person attendance, to reduce transmission and increase physical distancing. And that, I think, is, and I look forward to everyone's thoughts, but I think that is a different kind of hybrid model that some schools have done, where students would come 2 days a week, like Monday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday, if they didn't have space for all the students to properly physically distance. I don't think that applies to our high school, given the number of students we have and the number of classes we have. But if I'm wrong about that, please let me know.
Well, Gregory, I will tell you, they have a plan, not because of social distancing, but we have so many students that are behind, who haven't been attending or turning in work, that we have created Wednesday as a asynchronous day where they will give kids work to do at home. However, kids can come to school if they want and do it in school. They just are not going to be taught a direct lesson that day. The teachers in the high school will be working individually with the students who are very far behind, as we are concerned about them achieving their credits, especially seniors. We want to double check to make sure everybody is on track for graduation and no one slips by us. The high school ran that by me last week, and I thought it was actually a good idea because, again, we are trying to make sure our kids achieve the credit and graduate on time. So I believe they have sent that message out to high school parents. But that it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday is regular teaching. Wednesday is asynchronous teaching. The kids can still come to school. They're not telling families your kid can't come. Please don't misinterpret that. They can come, but they will be in another classroom with a specials teacher being supervised working on their work, while the English teacher is working with the 5 sophomores who aren't doing well in sophomore English right now. I hope I've shed clarity on that for you.
Yes, I'm just wondering if that certainly was permissible and consistent with the guidance that existed yesterday. I'm wondering if it's still consistent with what they're saying now.
Well, remember, we're not trying to reduce attendance.
Right.
They can still come.
Right.
We're trying to shift the focus to a student who is not achieving where we believe he should be achieving right now.
Yeah. As long as we're offering in-person instruction on that Wednesday, and it sounds like we are, if the students choose to come and have it, then it sounds like we're fine. But if students are then to, okay, I'm going to opt for virtual that day, I guess that's still consistent with us, as long as anybody who wants in-person instruction can get it.
Correct. Nobody will be denied coming to school. Nobody.
Okay. And then the middle school, I think is maybe trickier, and they don't define middle school here. I guess that would be 6, 7, 8, or 5 through 8. I'm not sure what it is, but again, that's a may reduce attendance to reduce transmission type of situation, but we have to offer in-person instruction during substantial transmission. So I guess, do we have a sense of how many kids are going to be on campus?
Yes.
Okay.
I sent that in my memo today. And again, for some reason, the memo that came through to you did not have a couple paragraphs in it. And this was one of them. We did a parent survey and we have 182 students will come in person and 71 will remain remote. You'll notice that does not equal the total number of kids we have because there's probably under 18 parents who still haven't completed the survey. But 181 to 70 is much higher in person than the first time we did this. I wasn't here, of course, but they reported to me that it was closer to 50-50 the first time.
Mhm.
It looks like it's more like almost 70-30 or 68-32.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way I read this is we would only reduce attendance to reduce transmission. And if we don't have any evidence of transmission, we wouldn't take any of those steps. This is a discussion, so if anybody else has different thoughts on this language, I'd like to hear it. But
I thought it was clear. Yes, we offer in person and we're in the moderate.
I thought it was clear as well.
okay. All right. And then the only exception really is for if we were to get back into a high transmission state, and that's subparagraph C here. Go ahead.
With the middle to high school and it not addressing the younger grades, does that mean we would keep all younger grades no matter what in person?
Yes.
Okay.
And there actually is a clarifying document that DHS issued that we'll look at in just a second. So yeah, but yes, elementary, the lower grades should be in person regardless of the transmission level in the community. And that's what it says right here, the first part of this subparagraph C. Elementary schools shall be open with in-person instruction and virtual instruction options. So again, parents who want to be virtual with their kids can do that, but we have to offer in person. Then this is the tricky part. Middle and high schools that are already open for in-person instruction, if we were to move back into high transmission, shall remain open. So we can't close, but we do have to strictly implement mitigation strategies. It obviously will be open on the 15th, but if for some reason we hadn't opened in person, then we could continue to operate virtually. And we could stay, and if we were closed, we could open if we were implementing strict mitigation strategies, which, frankly, from what I understand, we have done a tremendous amount of work implementing mitigation strategies between requiring everybody to wear masks, cleaning with the day porter, distancing, opening the windows, making sure we're getting enough air in classrooms. And we've seen that there weren't a lot of cases that we could tie to, someone in one. I don't think we saw any cases where somebody in one class passed it to another. We saw a lot of, people getting it off campus and then, happening to be at campus. All right. We have to notify parents within a reasonable time when in-person learning will resume. So I think we can let them know pretty soon, tomorrow probably, that we'll be
Take care of
back
that.
on March 15th. Then this is a key change. This basically takes away all our discretion here. The only reason that we would close in-person instruction now is if the local health department advises closing the entire school due to a significant outbreak of COVID-19 that poses a risk to the students or staff, and that the Department of Health Services approves that closure. And even if we were closed, we would still have to continue to offer on-site support services like we've been doing in virtual only for the last almost 2 months now. Finally, we have to notify the Arizona Department of Education no later than Monday, March 15th, that we're in compliance with the order. So obviously, we'll let them know. I'd like to do that in as formal a way as possible, having worked with the charter board recently. I know that they like to see it in writing and approved by everyone under the sun. So with that said, I will move that Desert Marigold School shall follow Executive Order 2021-04, open for in-person learning, and work with the local the Department of Health in order to comply with the order.
I second.
Thank you, Dan. We're just waiting for April to give me the thumbs up that she's caught up. Okay, any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor? I can see April's now.
I can't see the vote. So
it was unanimous.
You're sharing the screen, so I couldn't see who was voting.
Got it.
Hey, Gregory, will you
Yeah.
send that letter to the Department of Ed, or do you need me to do that?
If you could do it, that'd be great.
Okay.
But we'll send you the minutes from today's meeting that will show this motion, and you can say, we're doing it, the board approved it,
Okay.
however you want to say it.
All right.
You'll have the evidence.
Is there a particular person I should send it to, or just the department?
It doesn't say. You probably call and ask.
Okay.
We saw the order. We're trying to comply. Who do we confirm that we're complying with it to?
Okay.
All right. All right. So the motion was unanimous and passed. Then, in conjunction with that, the order commanded DHS to update its benchmarks, and this is what they released today. So we can see that Maricopa County has a substantial case rate, orange, a moderate positivity rate, so the overall transmission level is substantial. So what does that mean? So here's a moderate level of percent positive, which is what we have, and a substantial transmission of total new cases per 100,000. So, and then here is this handy chart down at the bottom here about what it means if you're in substantial transmission like we are. So it just says elementary schools are in hybrid learning or reduced attendance, and middle and high schools are in hybrid learning or reduced attendance. That's where we are in substantial transmission. So between the order, which is clear enough on its own, plus this, there's no question we need to be open for hybrid learning starting Monday, March 15th. All right. So I was, on a personal note, pleased to have freedom from choice on this one for once. So glad that the governor and the Department of Health gave a very clear mandate about what we must do, and happy to comply. All right, so that takes us to, unless there's anything else on COVID we want to talk about. Nope. Okay. Takes us to strategic planning. So, yeah, I know Danielle is excited. So we've been talking about a community contemplation exercise is kind of the longest term goal we've had recently. And we're making progress towards that. Thanks, Frank, for that update. Hopefully we'll get more details on that soon. But I want to focus on a few other topics. So I'm hoping we can talk tonight about, we have a proposal for some short-term fundraising options, over this coming year. But I want to talk tonight about how are we doing fundraising? What is our philosophy behind it? What is our goal really for fundraising? Because that seems like something that we should set in a bigger picture kind of way. Then I'd like to talk about capital improvement projects. Which ones do we want to do? How do we want to prioritize those? I know, Frank, you shared some good news on some research you've done on that front, and I shared that with the board too. But I think we should talk about how do we prioritize these things that we've all been asking for. How do we actually decide, okay, these are the ones we want to do? And then I want to make sure that we are giving our teachers the opportunities to continue in Waldorf training, whether they're newer teachers or veteran teachers like Mr. Tanner. That type of continuing education for the teachers, I think, is critical. And I think we as a board should find ways to support that if we can. And finally, how do we give the community education about Waldorf? And how do we bring in new people and share this vision that we have? Some of this may be part of, will come out in the contemplation exercise that we're doing, but I just want to float these topics as things that we should be thinking about and discussing now as we move into the next few months and as we're really in a position to grow. So with that said, why don't we start with fundraising and what kind of the big picture there is? Because we've talked about kind of the granular level about, do we have someone who can do something for us in the short term? But like big picture, what kind of fundraising do you guys envision for the school?
Well, I would tell you that our first meeting that Danielle and April and I had with the actual agent of fundraising, I liked the idea that she was talking $130,000 to $170,000 by July. And I'm not making that up, correct, Danielle and April? That's what she told us. And our eyes got big when they said that, because if that can come to fruition, we can do a couple of those projects quickly. Now, the secret is, how do we get there? We threw out ideas. I didn't hear an idea from her to make that much money. Look, I've run golf tournaments for 20 years. None of them ever made $150,000. And we know bake sales won't get us there. So I don't know what her idea was. We never really heard it. Am I right in saying that, April and Danielle?
That's correct. And after my experience Saturday, I'm super excited that we could easily mimic something like that. And that group also agreed to do a demo if we wanted to, whether we wanted to bring it to a board meeting or do it with one or two board meetings on the side. But it was they had pre-recorded content and live content. It was a 50-50 raffle, silent auction, and a live auction, and just a donate tab, a button where they would just press it and hold it, and like a blitz on started out at 10,000, and then when those bids didn't start to grow in as much as it was initially, then they'd lower it out, and it was just such a nice, well-run event. And I was thinking of showcasing how we haven't had our students back in instruments or in choir or doing a drama, and how we could, if teachers are open to that, pre-record that and incorporate that in and just really make our campus also with the virtual tour and let that shine. And because we could reach so many more people now, not just the people that can attend in person, but you've got your extended family and relatives and out of state, out of country. We could just reach so many more people. So we should make lemonade out of the lemons we have.
Well said.
So I like the 130 to 170,000 number too. I'm interested in setting even a bigger number as an annual fundraising goal based on the gap per student that we have in funding. And I think it's been a while since we figured out what that number is. But the last I heard, it was $2,100 per student. And if we multiply that by however many students we have, 275 total or something like that right now. That's a lot bigger number. That's almost $600,000, which is huge. But if we said, $500,000, that's a big round number. It's a big target, but it's a one that we can explain in pretty clear terms about why we need those extra funds, and if we can articulate why we need it and what we plan to do with it, and maybe that's the next part of this conversation of what are these capital improvement projects that we want to do, or course offerings that we want to bring back that we've had to cut in leaner times.
And another community member had suggested if we are able to do an in-person or again a hybrid model where we do have some guests in person and some virtual, of doing a medieval theme like we do medieval games, having like the jousting and the dress wear if they so choose, and capitalizing either on campus or not. But we just have such a beautiful space and we have the room. So some really fun ideas coming board. And the One Source had mentioned that ideally a good time to do it would be May, when people are already getting their tax refunds, and all the philanthropists that don't all have the events that they normally do are looking to give. And we could perhaps capitalize on that as well.
All right.
Any objections to a May event?
I don't have an objection to a fundraising event at any time.
Okay.
The only thing with May, we'd have to be careful with the timing, so we're not butting into those end of the year events for classes, graduation, that kind of stuff. So
Is there a date already set for 12th grade graduation?
I think it's that last Thursday.
Okay. I was depending on what.
25th, 26th. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, but it would be that last Thursday.
That's what I believe.
And depending on what parent council, if they don't have an event planned, but I'd like to, of course, check their calendars as well. Maybe just that first week of May, the first weekend.
sounds like a potentially great option. So why don't we do this then, since we're talking about, having an event later this spring. We're going to need to tell people what we're going to do with this money we're going to raise. Frank, you did a great job of organizing the thing. You interviewed a ton of people and asked them, what do you think the school needs? And found some great capital improvement type projects and listed them. And so those things were safety fencing, in that front parking lot area, a multi-purpose building where we would have a stage where we could do plays and that sort of thing, but it would be indoors and air conditioned. Then replacing the wood shop building, putting classrooms where the old farmhouse currently is, adding faculty restrooms to the high school building, adding air conditioning to the faculty workroom building. So I know we don't have numbers on those projects yet.
Well, I walked the campus yesterday with two gentlemen who are going to do a cost analysis for us. I should have that by the week we come back to school, March 15th, and I will forward that stuff on to you guys right away. I also believe there might be some donors for the smaller projects, like the fencing or the bathroom, which are not near going to be as much as the multi-purpose room or the demolition of the farmhouse and rebuilding of 4 classrooms. Those are 2 big projects.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be, you guys say, with the type of donors that we have, let's just do one big project. That whatever you guys want to do, or do you want to knock off 2 or 3 little ones? That's for discussion of another day, but I should have some costs without an architect even being involved yet. I should have some costs coming to us.
I had a couple questions about the positioning. Did that leave, and Frank, I'm just talking about your preliminary plans.
Mm-hmm.
Did it leave room for an amphitheater stage? And there's one part of the or plot where 3rd grade typically would plant wheat to harvest and thresh and bake bread with. Would that still leave that plot?
Mr. Shantz and I have talked, because I know he runs kind of the garden right now, and he wants the space in the back quadrant.
Okay, so yes, it leaves room.
Yes, and we would position the building in the front quadrant so that the parking lot is close and I don't have to put lighting in to get to it in the back quadrant, because that's just an extra cost because there's no lighting out there right now. We have parking lot lighting, but we wouldn't have it down that trail. I would have to pave that trail. Right now, I'm hoping to put a outdoor area in front of the building with some picnic tables so people can mill around at intermissions of some of our shows, or students, because that could end up being a lunchroom if we decide to bring lunch back. A multi-purpose room could be for lunch, and kids could eat indoors and outdoors. Also, the classrooms that you see, we have talked when we walked yesterday, because obviously square footage is what ends up costing you. If I say I need to have 200 people in a multi-purpose room, and I've mentioned that to some people, and they're like, Frank, that's way short. You need more. Our big shows bring 400 people. Well, if I try and build a room with that inside, that doubles the cost of square footage. But if I put 2 classrooms attached and have sliding doors, so they're classrooms during the day, and when I have a big crowd, we open those doors, and we use that space in 2 ways. We use it during the day as a classroom, but when we have a big crowd, it becomes an indoor part of the auditorium. And so I talked that through with the guys yesterday, and they said, of course that could be done. That's not a big deal at all. And I'm thinking we might want to entertain that. Of course, it's just an idea, but the people I've shared that with have said 200's not big enough. Do you guys concur?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Between parents and grandparents and children, and I mean, we get some pretty big crowds.
That's what they said. And the other thing is, we probably need to revise our parking lot a little bit, as they looked at the lot and said, maybe we can get 80 cars in here. And Steve was with me walking, and so he explained, oh yeah, when we do big events, they're lined up on 28th Street all the way down. The guy across the street lets us use his field once in a while, but we really should have, we should redesign that parking lot to fit more spaces. even if we keep it gravel, it doesn't mean we have to pave it and put out costs for that, but it needs to be redesigned in some way to fit more spaces. Did you have another question, Danielle?
I was like, so what was priority one? You walked the campus. Was there?
I did not list a priority one. I believe that that's going to be with your input to tell me what's priority one. Those were the top 5 priorities in talking to you guys, in talking to staff members, in meeting with parents. There were 20 projects that people wanted, but these 5 kept getting mentioned over and over.
Were there any that are safety hazards or a safety concern that maybe
the
should
fence
get
in
pushed
front
up?
of the school, the fence would be a big deal because I understand when we come back in, our kids play along that picket fence, and that's getting ready to fall down. I don't know if you've seen it lately, but it would be nice to have something that is a natural barrier between the parking lot. The other thing that the wood shop could be considered a safety issue because there is no heat or air for those kids to work. When it gets really cold, it gets really cold. And when it hits 106, how do you work? You're in a frying pan, you're in an oven it's all steel walls. I would say of the safety issues, those are the 2 safety issues. The other ones are things that we just really want to do to enhance our campus. I don't want to leave the adult bathroom out. That is problematic. And I don't want to call it the high school bathroom. It's just in looking at our plan, that's where there's room to do that. And I agree that adults using children's bathroom creates a problem. And they have to walk all the way to the front office to go to the bathroom. And if they're doing that, that means they're leaving their kids unattended. That's not good. So I do think we should consider that, even if I make them small and no frills, but it's something they can run in real fast and run back to their class.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts on the project? Potential project?
Have we gotten quotes or estimates on woodshop upgrades or redo or rebuild?
They walked with me yesterday to start.
Okay,
putting
so that's
that,
part of it.
Yeah, they're looking at a quote on all of those projects so that I can put it in front of you and you guys can prioritize. Because if we have no money, we do the 2 simple ones. If we run into a lot of money, we do something grandiose.
Roger that.
And by the way, if I left something off that you think needs to be in there, these guys will take a look at it for me quickly and draw something up and give us some type of a price. Obviously, the price isn't going to be right on because we haven't talked about specs or how much lighting's going inside of it. But if there's something I forgot and you think we should just ask, can you look into this? I'll have them do that. Just let me know.
I think it's a good list. I think it's one of the, as you said, these are sort of the top 5 things. They're definitely things that I've been talking about for years, that my friends have been talking about, the teachers have been talking about. So I think you've hit the nail on the head here with kind of our first priorities in regards to safety and also just a want and a need. We've been talking about a multi-purpose room for I don't know how long. But if we can find the donations and the fundraising to put that together, that would just change so many things about our school in the best way possible. So I'm looking forward to all of this and seeing the plans and the quotes. And
I didn't explain the farmhouse and taking that down and creating a pad with 4 classrooms. One of the classrooms would be a special ed office for speech, OT, PT, the special ed director. 2 would be junior high classrooms. My thought is to slide the junior high over there to separate him from the elementary. And in doing so, as John reminds me all the time, Frank, we'd love to have 2 first grades or 2 second grades or 2 sixth grades. We have no rooms. We're out of space. And so by moving 2 classrooms to the junior high, we free up the current 7th and 8th grade to possibly be starting loops with 2 classrooms, because the hope is we'll have that many kids. I know right now we could have 3 kindergartens. We can have 3 right now, but then that turns into 2 first grades, and I don't have a classroom for the second first grade, which would turn into 2 second grades, and I don't have a classroom for the 2 second grades. And so if you're talking about continually trying to fundraise, well, the best way to fundraise is raise student enrollment. That's automatic that you get money for them. And so that's what those 2 other rooms would be. And the 4th room in that building, people on campus have told me that building was prepped to be a computer lab at some point. It never came to fruition. And now that we have so many computers, I think we should make a lab. So if a teacher ever wanted to use it during the day, or if we wanted to use it for Galileo, which is a couple times a year, and AZ Merit, we have a standing room that can be done in. So this plan does give us 5 more classrooms, 2 attached to the multipurpose room, 3 in the farmhouse, and the 4th room in the farmhouse would be offices for those special ed specialty things. So 5 more classrooms could be 5 double grades if we play it right.
Yeah.
I know I'm dreaming, but it's okay.
Do I have access to the calendar to book the community room for all events for?
Well, I mean, I think one of the reasons the high school's enrollment has remained relatively low is because essentially we have 1 grade that automatically feeds into it every year. But if we eventually got to the point where we had 2 8th grades feeding into the high school, that's, potentially 50, 60 students a year, starts to look like, a more robust kind of high school experience if you have 200, 240 kids. I mean, I think we're talking 5, 6, 7 years down the line now, or maybe even longer. But if we could think about that kind of growth possibility and how we would sustain that, I think it would be huge for the school from the funding perspective, from the things we can do for the community perspective, and from the things, and frankly, most importantly, how many kids can we help get this Waldorf education we're trying to give them? All right. Well, I think it's going to be hard to prioritize these things without seeing the numbers, but I think this discussion has been helpful in conjunction with setting a time for some type of fundraising event. So what about Waldorf teacher training? I know, Frank, you mentioned at one of our last meetings that there's a possibility of trying to do something on campus over the summer.
That is correct. I do need to have more conversations with Michelle and Laura from the parent group, but in talking to Peter and Joan, next Tuesday, I have an appointment with Rebecca Allen. I don't think her name is Allen anymore. She got married. It's Debbie and Chris Allen's daughter. And she just happens to be in town all the way up through July as she's coming to see grandma and bring her child to have grandma days. And she's going to meet with me. And the good thing about Rebecca is she is nationally certified Waldorf as a trainer. So if by chance we agree on something that she will do for us, that is an actual Waldorf certificate, which carries more clout than anybody else training. Now, I will say this, I'm not adverse to having people who are good at something train. It just won't count as the certificate. It certainly will make a difference in their teaching. I believe that, because they're still learning and gaining knowledge. But of course, we put things in our contracts that say you will agree to get Waldorf certified within a 4-year period. And so this would certainly help them. I have 4 teachers on campus who have already agreed to do this if it happens. I have reached out to Tucson, Flagstaff, and Prescott, and Joan has asked me to check with the 2 Sedona schools. I didn't even know there were Sedona schools. She told me that yesterday, because I'm going to invite them and charge them. Their teachers would pay for it, which, by the way, is still going to be way less than the $18,000 to $20,000 that it costs to even take an online program or go to New York for the training. So I'm hoping that Tuesday's meeting with Rebecca goes well. I'm excited to meet her. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about her. And we'll see if this is something that she would agree to do while she's in town.
That all sounds excellent. Is that something that we could try and do every summer then? Is that the longer term?
Well, that was Joan and Peter's idea. They're like, Frank, years ago, this used to be the summer training place. And this used to be where we hosted all the medieval games, and everything somehow has changed. And it would be great if we can get those things back, including the summer teacher trainings. And I'm like, well, of course I would want to do that. Why wouldn't we want to be a host that's central in the middle of Arizona so that Tucson and Flagstaff can be included in that? We certainly have the space, and we just have to arrange for the trainers and how we would pay for them. And that's my further conversation with the parent group. I will have another meeting with Michelle and Laura to talk that through a little bit more.
Very good. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about that. I think that could be an excellent tradition to begin or to renew.
I would agree.
So, and that brings me to the last point in this topic area about community education about Waldorf. And in the past, I know we've brought in speakers to do things. I'm not sure if it was, it seemed like when I first joined the school, it was, maybe once a month, there was a speaker on some type of topic about some aspect of Waldorf education. But that kind of fizzled out, and it's something I'd like to see if we can get going again. I'd like it to be free to anybody in the community who wants to come and learn, and it's truly meant to be mostly for parents, I think, to really understand, the purpose and scope of what we're doing for their kids, and then also so that they can start bringing that anthroposophy back into their homes too, which it's a somewhat of a slow burn learning all the details about Waldorf, the philosophy behind it. And the more opportunities we can give for that, I think the more it enriches the students' experience when they come back to school. They're getting it at home and they're getting it in school. So I don't know if anybody has ideas about how we could restart a speaker series, something once a month, but just having Liz Bevan here recently, I thought was great. And if we could do something like that, I'll list names, people we could contact. We can do it virtually, even. We have the technology.
And I'd like to add to that, Gregory. Even with parent council meetings, we used to have a teacher who would present to us about some of their training and what they did in continuing education. And I hope all of our teachers are doing continuing education for their self-development and, of course, meeting kids in a new way. But that was phenomenal too, to hear the teachers tell us about their experiences and what training they had.
That's a great point. We have in-house experts who could talk about many of these topics. And maybe that's where we start.
And then also when the school was looking into, and I don't know if it was for the purpose of continuing education or professional development, but they would bring in an outside speaker. And while that person was there, they would do a community lecture in the evening because they were already being utilized. They were already on our campus. But again, virtual would be phenomenal as well. And guest teachers. I think some of them even did classes for the students. I know that Mike DeLeo did that in the high school.
Well, if anybody else has ideas about, or Mr. Tanner, maybe you could ask around informally among teachers, is anybody interested in doing a presentation about Waldorf education to the community, some aspect of it. Doesn't have to be every part of it, but key parts of it, I think, would be helpful for the community to hear. Just get some names, float some ideas, some topics for a webinar or something like that we could start maybe next month. Once a month, if we could get somebody to talk about some key part of what we do here, I think that would be great. All right. Well, I'll wait to hear from anyone with ideas on that one, and I'll keep asking around myself. All right. Unless there's anything else on this kind of bigger picture strategy stuff, I think we can move to the final part of our agenda. So I have one update on our charter board compliance progress. We are finally all the way done and fully compliant based on our 5-year interval audit. We just got word on, was it yesterday or Monday, about the final piece of that has been approved, and we are all set now. So our charter board has been updated with the board and AVE and with the Corporation Commission. Our charter representatives are people on board now. It's all set up. April and I can now log in. Our board is fully accurate. Before I forget, April reminded me, if you are interested in being on the board, your application is due by April 1st. As you can see, there are 5 of us. We would welcome people with skills who can help. We have needs in marketing, fundraising, technology, capital projects, managing those types of things. What else am I missing?
Construction,
Instruction,
project management.
yeah.
Engineering, those types of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could have a medical person, I mean, in this day and age.
Architect.
Yep, architect. Excellent.
Yeah. So if you're watching and you have any of those skills, or someone who has those skills, please, think about applying or put them in touch with us, and we can tell them what they need to do to apply either this time around or in the fall. All right. So that brings us to the very last thing on our agenda tonight: discussion and approval of the minutes of our last meeting. So, April, I'm forgetting the date. Was it February 17th? February 17th. All right. So I will move to approve the minutes of our February 17th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, opposed? Abstaining? Okay. 4 in favor with Danielle abstaining. The motion carries. And that brings us to the end of our agenda, so I will move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Danielle. All those in favor? That one's unanimous. All right. Danielle, could you read the closing verse for us tonight?
Absolutely. The most important tasks for humankind today and in the future is that we should learn to live together and understand one another. If this human fellowship is not achieved, all talk of development is empty. Rudolf Steiner.
Excellent. Thank you, Danielle, and thank you everybody for being here and for a good discussion.